Here's your wrestling news for September 15th, 2022, and we're kicking off with AEW, as after All Out's media scrum earlier this week, several names were suspended due to their participation in the fight. In addition to CM Punk, The Elite, and Ace Steel being involved, several people tried to break things up, and they too were suspended by Tony Khan. There's now been an update though, as on Wrestling Observer Live, Brian Alvarez reported that anyone who tried to break up the fight are now free to come back. This includes Brandon Cutler and Michael Nakazawa, as well as producer Pat Buck, as well as Christopher Daniels, who serves as AEW's head of talent relations. As for CM Punk, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Ace Steel, they are all still missing from AEW TV, with reports that Punk and Steel could be fired, as it's believed they instigated the fight. Ultimately, we'll all have to wait until the investigation is concluded in full before we see who gets to return to AEW TV and who doesn't, but for now, those who had a small role in what happened are now unsuspended. Last night's Dynamite saw the continuation of the AEW World Championship Tournament as Jon Moxley defeated Sammy Guevara, a decision that has been praised by fans. Of all the problems AEW is facing right now, the last thing the company needs is a Sammy Guevara title reign, as the TNT Championship is still recovering from his stranglehold. Many fans made it clear that the concept of Guevara as world champion was awful, so it only makes sense that Moxley was there to make the save and put an end to the Spanish God. In graphics, AEW are treating Moxley as a three-time world champion, having won the world title twice and interim world title once, and he's now on the cusp of a fourth reign, despite having been scheduled to be on vacation right now. As for last night's match, the bout saw no blood, a rarity for Moxley, and fans commended the former world champion for showing his skills without the need for blood. However, some questioned why Moxley had difficulty putting the former TNT champion away, feeling the match should have been more one-sided. Moxley going over was of course the right decision. He has been the promotion's rock throughout the worst times, and it's likely that he will carry the company as champion once more. If not for CM Punk, his comments, and the fight backstage, the biggest story coming out of All Out would have been MJF, who returned in the Casino ladder match with an assist from Stokely Hathaway's recruitment talent. This week, MJF had his usual intense promo against Jon Moxley and turned his attention to Bryan Danielson and Chris Jericho with what played out like a greatest hits compilation from the salt of the earth. MJF invited those working with Hathaway to join him in the ring, and it was announced that the group is now The Firm. The segment did well to communicate the intentions of all parties involved, and once again, MJF does what he does best, which is tell the story. It was in the main event of the show Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson faced off not only for a shot at the AEW World title, but in the continuation of the feud between the Blackpool Combat Club and the Jericho Appreciation Society. Both sides have been trying to win over the allegiance of Daniel Garcia, who watched the match backstage, refusing to get involved. The other aspect of the match was the chase to be AEW World Champion, with Jericho looking to become a two-time champ and Danielson seeking his first reign. After losing it all out, Danielson got his revenge by beating Jericho, advancing to the world title match on next week's Dynamite, where he'll face his BCC alum, Jon Moxley. The match received high praise online, with some saying it was better than their pay-per-view bout, while another fan said that Jericho had been slapped purple by the American Dragon. Not only does this set up a great match, but it also sets up a possible rubber match between Danielson and Jericho, possibly for the world title. Backstage, Garcia watched on 1 week after his ROH Pure title win, and as he smirked at Danielson's win over Jericho, it was the latest indication that he is bound for the Blackpool Combat Club. Now it's safe to say that AEW has had its share of issues over the past few months, from notable injuries to their top stars being suspended. Tony Khan has been left having to deal with a lot of huge problems at the same time, and there's now another issue for the AEW president. If you watched last night's Dynamite, you may have noticed that the Albany, New York crowd were quiet for large parts of the show, and that's because the event was severely underattended. Photos have been circulating online of just how many seats in the MVP arena were left empty, including one from Swerve in Our Glory's match with Penta and Rey Fenix. The crowd were also quiet during the main event between Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson, though AEW, like many promotions, filmed in a way to make the show look packed. If you're watching from home, you'll have seen what you thought was another packed house full of AEW fans, but the truth is much different to what fans saw at home. Now in August 2020, Roman Reigns pinned Braun Strowman to capture the Universal Championship, kicking off one of the most impressive title runs of all time. At WrestleMania, Reigns unified the Universal and WWE titles with his main event win over Brock Lesnar, and ever since then, the Red brand has been without a top champion. When WWE had Reigns unify the two titles, the plan was for the Tribal Chief to appear on Raw and SmackDown, boosting the ratings for both shows, but that isn't what happened. With Reigns signing a new contract for fewer dates earlier this year, fans have seen much less of him on WWE TV, and his appearances on Raw specifically have been close to non-existent. WWE didn't know that Reigns was going to sign a new contract for fewer dates, and we imagine that if they'd been aware of the details, they would have been much more hesitant to unify the titles. It was covered recently that WWE are wanting to separate the titles without Reigns taking a loss, and it's now being reported that Triple H has come up with a plan to ununify the titles. According to sources, the game's idea is for Braun Strowman to take the WWE Championship to Raw, with the plan being for the Monster Among Men to be as big of a star as the Tribal Chief. Triple H made this plan clear to Reigns during a private meeting between them, while ensuring Reigns that he will remain the top star of the company, but will just have to share that position with Braun. It's hardly surprising that Braun is being pushed this way, as the game was the one who signed Strowman to NXT years ago, and it was implemental in bringing him back. Sources indicate that Triple H will appear on Raw, making it clear that Reigns has not been a champion for the Red brand for too long, and that he is not deserving of the WWE Championship. A fictionalized board of directors meeting will vote to strip Reigns of the WWE title, leaving the Tribal Chief solely as the Universal Champion once again. As for Strowman, a battle royal on Raw will crown the Monster Among Men the new WWE Champion, ending the moniker of the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. This is a huge plan for WWE, who've been wanting to correct the mistake of making Reigns the sole world champion. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Earlier this month, it was reported that Velveteen Dream, aka Patrick Clark, had used his phone to film people at a house party hosted by EC3. Clark allegedly set up his camera phone in a way where he'd be able to film wrestlers going to the toilet in EC3's home in the latest problematic story by the former North American champion. Now EC3 has spoken about the alleged incident again, as during an interview with Steve Fall of NBC Sports Boston and SE Scoops, he claimed that not only did this happen, but WWE knew. It was known, talent was involved. It's a wild tale and a lot of people did know. Even being part of it where I was kind of at the forefront of it because it was at my home, taking it up the chain, being there, getting there, people sometimes don't want the boat rocked from an office perspective. Sometimes talent is doing well and drawing money, they'll be protected. WWE hasn't addressed this specific allegation publicly, but did conduct an investigation when Clark was accused of sending explicit photos to a minor, an investigation which, according to WWE, came up fruitless. Nevertheless, WWE decided to release Clark in May 2021, and despite his claims of innocence and hope to one day return to WWE, that seems less and less likely as time goes on. Filming wrestlers' genitals without their consent is just the latest accusation against the former Velveteen Dream, but now Patrick Clark has made some accusations of his own. Responding to EC3, Clark shared a video to Instagram where he accused his fellow ex-superstar of leaving out some important details in the video. Clark added that he won't be naming who was there, as at least one person who attended is now on Raw, and suggested that there was a type of powder on the table at EC3's party. Clark did admit to leaving his phone in the bathroom, but denied the idea he filmed people, instead saying that EC3 came to that conclusion due to not knowing Clark's sexuality because of the sexually fluid character he played on TV. In case his first suggestion of drugs wasn't clear enough, Clark accused EC3 of using cocaine, telling the founder of Control Your Narrative to get your shit together. On his Instagram story, Clark made another accusation, saying that a lot of cocaine users are still employed by WWE, but won't say who due to what he called Vegas rules. WWE has a strict anti-drug policy, and we imagine anyone using cocaine will receive a hefty suspension, if not a release, but he's keeping quiet over who these users allegedly are. On this week's Raw, Edge faced Dominic Mysterio, and the WWE Hall of Famer was written off TV. The show ended with all 4 members of the Judgment Day beating Edge down, and now there's been an update on his condition. During yesterday's episode of WWE The Bump, it was revealed that Edge suffered a grade 2 MCL sprain, which was determined after an MRI. There's no word on how long Edge will be out of action, but odds are that this is all just part of the storyline and that Edge merely wants some time off from the ring. Time will tell if Edge is back in time for October 8th's Extreme Rules event, but for now, the Rated R Superstar is on the shelf. Like Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho seems to be much happier in AEW and has previously said that he plans on finishing his career with the company. For decades, Jericho worked with WWE, becoming a huge success in the company, but had to turn down the chance to return. That's according to Jericho, who said on the latest episode of his podcast that Vince McMahon was fine with him going to AEW until he wasn't fine with it. I did give WWE a chance though. I did give them a chance and I said, here's the offer that I've gotten from this new company, and I was told Vince says to take it. I think he thought I was bluffing. I took it, then about a week later Vince was like, you took it? And I said, yeah. He said, can you get out of it? No. You told me to take it. Why would I try and get out of it? He was asking me like, what kind of a TV deal have they got? I was like, you can't ask me these questions. Jericho didn't get out of his contract, but instead officially joined AEW in January 2019, becoming their first world champion in August of that year. Y2J has said he'll never go back to WWE, but we all know to never say never in wrestling, but for now, Chris Jericho is thrilled to be working with Tony Khan. And we're ending today with AEW, who have welcomed several ex-WWE superstars in recent years, thanks in part to the Stamford Promotions' lengthy budget cuts. Now another ex-WWE star has made his AEW debut, but if you don't want to be spoiled on AEW Dark Elevation, we recommend skipping the next 30 seconds of the video. During the most recent tapings for the show, Mascara Dorada, formerly known as Grand Metalik, made his debut for AEW, defeating Serpentico via pinfall after a super kick and a Dorada driver. Dorada was released from WWE in November 2021 after he and teammate Lince Dorado had made it clear to the company that they wanted to leave. Now Mascara Dorada has been given a new chance in AEW, and after his win this week, he may be sticking around in Tony Khan's company. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.